Ready?
Live. Yep.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Hey, it's Wild Josh from Geek-Cetera, and I'm joined today by Ezra, Chase, and Joa, who is a watcher of our show, I guess. Not really a listener,
Long-time
but anyways,
listener of the podcast and watcher
he
of the
also
YouTubes.
yes, and he is also brother of the Ezra.
Indeed.
So, yes,
Younger brother.
younger brother. So we are going to talk about one of his theories. That's why we brought him along. And this theory is going to be about the child. Now, let's get geeky. So, Joa, we're going to kick it off right over to you about your theory here on the child. We know the Mandalorian is coming on Friday, and we're all really excited.
All right, absolutely. So, we all know the child as Baby Yoda. Disney officially doesn't call it Baby Yoda, but most people will call it affectionately Baby Yoda because that's what he looks like. He looks like Yoda's species. I see Chase shaking his head. What are you shaking your
I
head
hate
for?
it.
Chase doesn't
It's
call
fine.
it Baby Yoda.
Just continue with your theory. I just disagree.
Okay. Well, this is fine because my theory might convince you otherwise. So, we know Baby Yoda, well, the child is Baby Yoda. But we don't have an official name. My theory is that we might already know who Baby Yoda grows up to be, or the child grows up to be. My theory is that the World Between Worlds from Star Wars Rebels will be used at some point in the Mandalorian TV show, and they will send the child back to the past through the World Between Worlds, where he will grow up to become Grandmaster Yoda. Now, the reason...
Yoda goes back to the future?
No, back to the past, actually.
I guess that's true.
My theory, the reason I think of this is because the World Between Worlds was introduced in Rebels as kind of a minor plot element. They use it to get Ahsoka out of danger in the final season. But aside from that, just some emotional tension for Ezra, the main character of Ezra, with, wanting to save Kanan as well. But aside from that, the World Between Worlds seems kind of unnecessary. So what if they decided to bring that back and really intertwine it with the rest of the Star Wars canon? Make it a much bigger part.
So,
what do you guys think?
My issue would be that their lives overlap.
Do they, though?
Yeah, because Yoda doesn't die until Empire Strikes Back, whereas we're told that this baby's 50 years old, and it's only 6 years after, 5 or 6 years after Return of the Jedi. So I think people have done the math. I've read that they say that the age of this child is actually around the same age as Anakin.
Right. Yeah, that's the theory I subscribe to as well.
Yeah.
So
that means their lives would have overlapped, which would be at one point there were if he is Yoda, there would have been 2 Yodas.
Yeah.
that's fine.
And the way I
Fine.
have time travel working in my head and the way I imagine Star Wars does it is that doesn't cause any issues or time paradoxes because that would be a little too complicated, I think.
Yeah.
Well,
because as long as the 2 Yodas never connect, like in Doctor Who, the Doctor has been in the same place in the same time and interacted with himself, and it doesn't cause an issue.
We can't go Doctor Who science now.
But we're talking about time travel. It's all wibbly wobbly.
well, all right, but we're talking
Yeah.
about Star Wars
Yeah,
too, because if you want to
exactly.
talk Star Wars science, then I mean that's
Yeah.
What are you gonna say?
possibly even worse than Doctor Who science.
No way! I don't think it's
Yes.
worse.
Oh, absolutely,
I
it is
mean,
worse.
So
100%.
my thought here
Did
is
you see
that
the episode where mannequins come alive and attack people?
You mean
I
like
loved that episode.
the first one with Christopher Eccleston?
Yeah.
Really, the first episode that most people saw?
Yeah, exactly. Or the one where people's fat jumps off their body and runs away.
The adipose.
I mean,
So
The thing with the difference here with Doctor Who is that it doesn't really care about its own timeline. You know, everything is
Mhm.
just a new adventure.
right.
In Star Wars, everything has a very set flow. The time flows naturally. And I don't think this would cause any issues personally, because the way I see it, the world between worlds is connected to the Force. So if the Force is determining all of the outcome, you know, what happens, then perhaps the Force, you know, I don't know how to explain it aside from like destined Baby Yoda to go through the world between worlds and grow up to become
so
Grand Master Yoda.
the one thing I like that contributes to Joa's point is we know that the Mandalorian is tasked with returning, the child to this creed of enemy sorcerers. Right now, we are in a time after the fall of the Empire where there is one singular Jedi. Unless Luke has already started his, revitalization, but we don't have any proof of that. Where are a large source of Jedis? The Old Republic. Or even this new. So there's too many republics. There's the Old Republic, the Republic, and then the New Republic. So just the regular Republic then had a lot of Jedi. So the easiest place to find a Jedi to return this child would be obviously in the past.
Mm.
That being
That's
said,
another-
I'm not sold on the
Yeah.
theory, but like that, I can understand like how Joa's point would make sense.
And that's another thing I wanted to mention was this new season of Mandalorian is the theory is that Ahsoka is going to be in it, and by that extension, I believe Sabine as well. Who's had the most connection to the world between worlds? Ahsoka.
Technically
I'm-
Ezra, but
Ezra,
Technically
yeah.
Ezra, but Ahsoka's life was
Yeah.
saved by the world between worlds,
Yes.
and with that cloak and everything she was wearing, I'm pretty sure that she has a lot more of a tie to the world between worlds than Ezra does at the point of the end of Rebels. So I think that perhaps Baby Yoda or the child gets brought to Ahsoka. They find Ahsoka, and Ahsoka realizes that this is the same person that she's already met, but just way too young, and thinks perhaps the world between worlds, we need to send him through, and that's
so, do you
I don't
think
know,
that
that's-
maybe in some reason that's why Yoda passed on Ahsoka as a young Padawan and said, "Yep, she's ready," and that's why he intentionally gave her to Anakin, knowing that this has to be the stream of timeline events that leads to him getting back to the past in the first place.
Because
maybe-
why else would he assign an apprentice to a non-master,
Yep.
right?
And also to somebody who was as impulsive as Anakin. And also, she was young to be an actual Padawan. She should still have been technically considered a youngling.
I didn't actually think of that. That's an interesting point. I didn't think at the point where Baby Yoda or child would be sent through the portal, he would really be old enough to understand what was going on. Just that this is a strange area that we're going
And
through, or
Even
You
if
know,
he
why-
doesn't,
why-
though, his
we're
connection
back
to
in
the
the past.
Force and his ability to perceive future events. I don't know.
I didn't think of that either.
I don't know why I'm adding points to this theory.
I feel like I'm trying to think like Disney's gotten itself into a pickle with the movies anyways, right? So they're trying to regain fans. They got something really good going here, and I wonder if fans as a whole would like that twist that it's actually Yoda the whole time, or if it would just cause more outrage that you're ruining things that people already loved and treasured and all that stuff, right? Because people didn't really care for the way Yoda was even portrayed in the sequel trilogy. So I just wonder if that would just be like stepping all over something else that George Lucas created, and people would be like really upset about it and make people even angrier.
It's towing that fine line between something that Ezra and I have talked about a lot. I think Ezra's talked about it probably more than I have, but I want new Star Wars. I want new characters, new adventures. So to make this Yoda feels like you are trying to drag this too far back to the movies when you have your own thing going. Why not just keep going with this thing that you have in a different direction from the rest of the saga?
Yeah.
That being said, like I don't hate the theory.
Mhm.
It's interesting to think about. I don't think it's probably the way they're gonna go with it, but it's an interesting theory because it kind of, I don't know, it makes sense from a standpoint of like why add the world between worlds if you're not gonna use it for something really trippy like this.
Mhm.
I don't know.
I actually was
another-
not a fan of the world between worlds. I don't know if anyone else was.
I'm just a sucker for time travel.
I'm not a huge fan of it being. I'm not a huge fan of time travel in my Star Wars, but
Hmm.
it goes back to the thing I've talked about, like with the whistling birds that you see the Mando use time and time again. When you introduce something new, you have to keep using it. Otherwise,
Hmm.
why did you bring it here? So, like Ezra said,
Right.
if you gave this to us, what are the implications? Because now we know it exists, so it has to have some larger story.
Yeah. It's tough because if they use the world the world between worlds to go back and change things or do things to the movies, I think you're gonna rile fans
I don't
and
think
ruffle
it
some
changes
feathers.
anything to the movie though, because Yoda existed before Episode 1, so you're not changing. The only thing you're
Yeah,
changing is
yeah.
his backstory, but it's not backstory that we got in the movies anyway. You're not
Right.
That's something I
retconning
was going to
anything,
add to your point earlier was that we don't really know anything about Yoda before Episode 1.
We just know he's been training
Oh.
Jedi for a long time. That's it.
Yeah, so we don't know where he came from, and perhaps this is a good way of tying up that loose end. And another point I had was that the Mandalorian technically is still within the Skywalker saga time period.
Yeah.
So this might be a good way of like wrapping up one final loose cord, so to speak, one final loose thread.
That's an interesting thought too, because as far as Star Wars mysteries go, Yoda and his species has Yoda and his species has possibly been the biggest, mystery question mark, and maybe that would be something interesting to address before you kind of close the book on the Skywalker saga.
Yeah, I agree. But your theory has actually made me think about something else. We're talking, well, if we're to believe the trailers, the story going forward is going to be him trying to reunite this child with the man, or find out through Mandalorians, tracking down Mandalorians, more about the Jedi to reunite it with its kind and all this stuff. And that makes me ask the question: who is alive for Jedi in this time period? Well, we know Ahsoka because we've been told she's going to be in this
She's
movie.
not technically a Jedi.
True, but I guess she's a Force user.
Yeah.
But who else is alive in this time that we know are Jedi
Luke.
or fall under that title?
Luke and Leia.
Ezra might be out there somewhere,
Ezra,
Pretty sure he's alive out there.
but
Yeah.
Luke and Leia, right? Maybe
Luke and Leia.
maybe
So
Kylo.
it makes me wonder, how can they, if like, are they really going to just omit Luke and Leia from the story, you think? And they're probably,
I don't.
you think they're not going to be there at all?
They might get referenced,
Or
and I
even
think
like
you'll hear mentions.
referenced, even
Yeah,
referenced.
I think you'll probably
like,
hear references or mentions to them, but I think you'll have a very hard time convincing the fans that bringing back a CGI young Mark Hamill and a CGI Carrie Fisher is an okay thing to do for
Yeah.
any amount of screen time.
yeah.
I'm with Chase on this one.
Mm-hmm.
No, I agree too. It just seems so funny. Like they're probably the only two actual. They're not really even Jedi because they didn't finish their training, right? But
Well,
um,
Luke
I mean,
basically is,
Luke,
right?
yeah.
Leia probably isn't, but so my question is like, where is Luke right now? Like in the stream of time, where do you think he would be?
I would think that at this point, we're 5 years, 6 years after Return of the Jedi, that he's just starting to get his academy running.
So where is that?
I don't know. Where
Don't
was that? What
remember.
planet was that on?
I do not.
But
remember?
it was on the planet that he hit out on
No,
for.
No, I don't think so.
he
It
ran
was
to
on
Octo.
Octo.
He didn't build
Okay.
the academy there.
Yeah, I don't know that we ever found out. Or,
Where he built the academy.
I mean, I'm sure, there's, now that I say that, there's probably somewhere a reference to where it was, but I just don't know, like whether it was in the comics or some
Well,
book.
My point anyway would be, it would be a secret location, so maybe the Mandalorian couldn't track him there.
Mm.
So maybe that's how they, fix that. Like there is a Jedi, and he's the one who killed the Emperor, but he's, we don't know where he is because,
Yeah.
there's no way to
Yeah,
find him.
I think after Return of the Jedi, he kind of went off the grid a little bit when it comes to like the rebellion and a lot of people the Mandalorian would be in contact with. I don't think, the only person I can think of is Cara Dune. She might know of a Jedi who is, a pretty a big wig in the
In the rebellion.
organization, in the rebellion, but she might not know a whole lot after that.
And it's also possible that this time period is exactly the time period that we see in the flashback from Rise of Skywalker,
It's a cute cat
Where-
you got there, Ez.
where Leia is being trained by Luke at this point, and he hasn't even started his academy yet.
Yeah.
So they could just be off somewhere training, whatever jungle planet that was that they were on.
It looked like Endor, but
It did look like Endor, but I don't think it was.
It
I
may
don't.
have also been like Dagobah or something too.
I doubt Dagobah.
Why?
it wasn't swampy enough.
Not swampy enough. Yeah.
Not all of Dagobah is as swampy as where he crashed the X-wing. Like
There's
where,
nice parts
where
of
Yoda's
Dagobah.
hut is.
From
What about the
Star
cave that
Wars
he goes
logic.
into? I don't know.
From
But
Star Wars logic, we're led to believe
No.
that a swamp planet is a swamp planet,
I'm still
and
thinking,
a
like,
jungle planet is a jungle planet, and
I'm still
the
thinking, like,
desert planet is a desert planet.
Though Chase has a point.
like
in
where
episode 9,
Yoda's
the
hut
planet
is, or like where he did
Oh.
all his training. It wasn't always just like pure water.
Chase owns property on Dagobah. And he does not appreciate you talking bad about it.
You're lowering my land values.
And one thing is, the beginning of episode 9, Kylo cutting people down on that foresty planet, that was Mustafar.
Yeah, it's true. Which we had
Oh,
no
did
idea
we
because
comment,
there was
by
no
the way?
lava.
Brett informed us it was Dantooine.
But
Oh,
then he says,
Dantooine.
"Haha, never mind."
Did he?
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm not
Well,
good
that's
enough.
NM.
Yeah, and I'm used
I
to
don't
seeing NVM.
Oh.
I'd buy Dantooine though. It didn't get blown
Yeah.
up by the Empire, so.
That's true.
Yet.
So, all right. And Joey, did you see the theory that we talked about a couple weeks ago, where Moff Gideon wants a child for its either its force
Yeah,
abilities or its
yeah.
long life?
Now, I think this might do pretty well with that theory as well. If Moff Gideon knows this is Yoda as a child,
Mm.
I think there's a lot more implications with that.
So
I
do you
was
think
just
Moff?
thinking- Go ahead.
Okay. Well, do you think Moff Gideon knows and like is purposely trying to ruin the time?
He
Like-
might.
It's
He
possible.
might be.
I really am bought into the theory that Moff Gideon is a Inquisitor.
Mm-hmm. I like
And
that.
I think it would make even more sense if he was an Inquisitor.
thing
You
that-
know, he would know.
I was just thinking about when you said Moff Gideon wants the kid. I'm like, there is no like when he was on that planet with the farmers, he was gonna leave the child there, but he knew that they would constantly be hunted. There is no safer place to hide the kid than in the past, where Moff Gideon has no chance of getting to it. The more I talk about this theory, as much as I don't like it, I like it. It's a good one, Joa.
In my mind, this Jedi Praxium, also known as the Jedi Academy, was an academy that was founded by Jedi Master Luke Skywalker on Yavin 4.
That makes
makes sense.
sense.
Yeah.
And 11 years after the Battle of Yavin.
So we're only 5 years, so he hasn't founded that yet.
No, we're only 5 years after the Battle of Endor.
Endor.
How many years
Oh.
are we after the Battle of Yavin?
Yeah, probably around
Probably
that.
been around
maybe,
for
yeah.
a little while, yeah.
Yeah.
What was I saying? But yeah, in my mind, this theory, while it's not guaranteed, it's still plausible because
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like one of those things where it's like I wouldn't hate it happening at all. Like it's my own theory, so I guess I would love it to happen. But I could see it going either way. Like, I'm sure Dave Filoni has his own plan with it. So I could definitely see it happening. It's kind of 50-50 in my mind. That might be generous, but
I think that's generous.
I think it's a little generous. It's like, again, I think it's a very interesting theory, and I think you're right. Like, to a degree, it's plausible. The more we talk about it, the more we come up with reasons why. But I don't see it happening. That is the only thing. Like,
Yeah,
I'd give it like a 5% chance.
Yeah, I agree. The thing that I do like out of this, though, is the idea of where is this world between worlds going to fall in the Star Wars universe? When are we going to see it used again? How are we going to see it used?
It's gonna be like midichlorians. We never see it used again.
Let's not.
Well,
I think there's a difference there. The midichlorians technically still exist. It's just they aren't talked about. They
just
aren't, like,
don't
on
talk
a
about it.
pedestal.
Maybe they're planning to siphon the midichlorians from the child.
That's
I-
that
possible.
could be what Moff Gideon's plan is.
So
Yeah.
I feel like if the world between worlds doesn't get used again, then it's just like, why was it put in the first place?
mhm.
There's no point for it existing.
It was
And I
used
love Rebels.
just to save Ahsoka.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
was-
kind of an ex
it's-
machina.
It literally, yeah, exactly.
So I would say that, like everyone else, it's plausible. I don't have a solid argument why it cannot 100% cannot be Yoda. But I think it's unlikely that it's Yoda.
I have maybe one thing. Have we ever seen Yoda use like a force heal ability ever?
No.
No, but that doesn't mean he has enough screen.
No, you're right, but it's never been talked about, never been mentioned. You don't think
I
he would
I
have
think
ever
the
used
biggest
it?
time where he'd would have a chance to use it is in episode 2 when Obi-Wan is sitting there with these massive gashes in his arm and leg, and Yoda comes in, just looks at him kind of disappointed and walks away. That's kind of like a bad manners move to, like, you have the ability to heal this, but
Well, that wasn't
no, you're on your
life-threatening
own.
either.
Was
That
it?
wasn't life-threatening either.
Well, neither was the Mandalorian's damage, right?
Well, the
Yeah.
Mandalorian was a friend, and
Yeah,
So
but
you're saying
Obi-Wan was a
Obi-Wan is
friend.
Yoda's friend?
well, yes, but also the child is a child and probably doesn't have like any restraint. Just
I
like,
can think-
oh, I see injury, I'm going to heal it now.
I can think the one thing that would be a no is he's so old and maybe it takes a lot out of you because you see
That
it
is-
it wipes
yeah.
out the child. But still,
Yeah.
I agree with Ezra. Why I feel like he's had plenty of opportunities.
Yeah.
Why not use it? Think
Yeah.
about how many times Yoda has watched his fellow Jedi die.
Most of the time, those are instant kills, though. I feel.
No, but I'm thinking, in this situation, if he was during the war was a long time, and he's been alive for 900 years, but in the case of Qui-Gon got stabbed by a lightsaber. That's like an easy heal
Okay.
kind of thing. I feel.
So, how about in the very first episode of the Clone Wars? He has
yeah.
4 clones with him,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
Going up against Ventress and all of her, and one of the clones gets injured.
Yep.
So that automatically puts you down a man.
Mhm.
So that would be like the perfect opportunity to force heal him, like in those caves where they're hiding out. He's
I
got
agree.
plenty of time to do it and recover. Doesn't do it,
I
and now
agree.
he's down a man. So he's essentially 4 against that entire army instead of 5.
Counterpoint. That was the lesson he was trying to teach them. Was that you don't need the numbers when you've got the Force.
They already didn't have the numbers though.
They also
They
didn't
were
have the
already
Force.
so outnumbered.
Even better, we're like 3.5 people plus Jedi, and we have the Force. Therefore, we win. Is the kind of point I feel Yoda was going for.
Yeah, I
You know-
still feel like he had so many opportunities to use it,
I feel like
and
as in his old wizened years, he would save that ability because it does drain you of your own life force when you use it. I think in his older years, he would save that ability for something life-threatening like.
Also, I don't really think it takes that much out of you because Rey did it, and like there was no.
yeah, but
though
she's a
Kylo
Mary
didn't
Sue because
died.
We don't want to get into Ray.
she's a Mary Sue. 'cause
She
think
did
about
everything.
When Kylo did it, it killed Kylo.
Yeah, but wouldn't you argue that Yoda is way more powerful than Rey?
Not in Kathleen Kennedy's eyes.
Yeah,
Well, in any sane and logical person's eyes.
Yes.
I would rather
but
Yoda be more
Star
powerful.
Wars is not run by somebody who is sane and logical, Ezra.
I don't know. I'd rather.
Yeah, what
Filoni
about
just take
the
over.
fact that the child uses the dark side?
Again,
Oh, that too.
That's- I feel like
again
that
goes
could be-
down to the fact he's a child.
Yeah,
Yeah,
lack of
that's what I
restraint
was
and no training. He doesn't know, like, the dangers of the dark side and using the dark side.
Who trained Yoda? That's a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah, and was Yoda trained younger than the child is now? Like, do you think Yoda was trained from like birth,
We
or
don't
do you
know.
think
Well, if
he
it,
could have been? It's possible that he could have been 50, 60, 75 years, whatever, when he got trained. Because
How
I
do you-
think about how he felt about Anakin and said he's too old, but I guess
Yeah.
age is kind of subjective
relative.
in this universe.
Yeah.
how do you train? Because a 1-year-old would be like him being 50. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they didn't. I don't think they train Jedi from birth, but they train them from, like 4 up or whatever.
I know this
Yeah.
is way off base. I have no point for asking this question other than the fact, are they measuring a year? Because here on Earth, we measure it by our rotation around the sun. So, are we going back to our theory from the video that was released this
So-
morning that they are measuring it by an Earth standard? And, like, or is this...
In my mind,
Are
most
they measuring
fiction,
it by, like,
if
a
they say year,
Coruscant year? Because Coruscant is the capital and it's in the inner rim? Or, like...
with most fiction, when they say a year, they mean an Earth year. And in my mind, I think Coruscant probably also has Earth year, so that's how they would explain it in canon. Is that
Well,
Coruscant has the
But
same.
each planet is going to have a
orbit if they
different
did
year
that.
length. So, I don't know.
Well,
Yeah. I never thought of that,
So
Chase. And
now-
now you ruined everything.
Now
You ruined sci-fi for me, Chase.
my
Whoopsie.
question is, now I feel like the easiest way to determine how long a Coruscant year would be is,
To travel
wa-
there. Yeah.
was there any did they say anything about how long?
Well, we have
like-
our answer from Brett.
Okay, never mind.
But do we have an answer for you, Brett? Because let's think about it. Now you're saying it's 300 and what does that say? 68 days. How long is a
Is
day?
he making that up?
It's
Brett,
entirely
Brett,
possible.
are you making that up and just being really convincing?
When you think of that, that's only like 3 days off of our own calendar. So they added a few days in to make it a little more,
Did-
a little unique flair.
Did
you
they
know?
ever say how long Padme was pregnant for?
Well, according to Brett, probably not 9 months because that would almost be a year.
I'd say probably only about an hour of the movie.
That's a good. You're right.
But so now,
Uh.
how are we measuring a day? Are we measuring, a Tatooine day where they've got 2 suns? Or are
Yeah,
we
it's
measuring
true.
an Earth day? Or are we measuring a Coruscant day? Like,
And
I'm
then
guessing there's
what are we
something-
talking about with daylight savings time too? Like, where's
Oh,
that
that
come
must be a
into play?
nightmare.
they're
The
smart
jet
enough to
lag,
not
though.
use jet lag.
Judging by people nowadays, I'm not sure. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, it's that far off.
Why is it when they fly to like another planet and it's just like nighttime? They have to like readjust their entire sleep
Okay,
schedule every
so-
time they land somewhere.
Brett just did say it's based on the
Right.
rotation of Coruscant.
Brett being the guy in the chair today.
Yeah,
That's
Brett,
kinda what I-
good.
That
This
was
better
what
be from
made sense to
Wikipedia
me,
because that's
but-
the only trusted source I know.
But now my question is, was it set that way because Coruscant was the capital of the Republic? So now is their day and year now based off of Hosnian Prime?
Wait,
Um,
why Hosnian Prime?
Hopefully not, because
Isn't that the-
Hosnian
isn't
Prime
that-
got blown up.
It got yeeted, but that was the capital of the New Republic, as.
It
Remember
was the
from
capital of the New
episode
Republic.
7 when it got destroyed,
Mm.
along with like the systems around it?
Right.
Yeah, why did they ever go there instead
Why,
of
yeah,
just
why did they
taking
not just keep Coruscant?
Coruscant? I don't know.
Was it still
weird.
controlled by the First Order, or like
I don't think the First Order would
did
have
a faction of the
influence there.
Empire maintain control of Coruscant for that whole time period, right into when the First Order came to being?
I don't know.
Because that would be the only thing I could think of. Like if a faction of the Empire held that planet for the entirety of that 20 years or whatever.
Brett,
And
the whole thing broken down.
Yeah,
oh
it
my
is.
God, Brett.
60 seconds, 1 minute, 60 minutes, 1 hour, 24 hours, 1 day. 5 days equals 1 week. So not a 7-day week. It's a 5-day
Yeah.
week.
I
7
think we
weeks.
have Geek of the Week here.
35 days equals a month. 10 months plus 3 festival weeks and 3 holidays. 368 days, 1 year. Wow. They
That
have
doesn't
that figured out?
That doesn't surprise me that Lucas has that figured out,
No.
but that is still pretty crazy.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess that's that. Like I said, I can't refute it, but I think it's unlikely.
So I have one other point that I
Mhm.
just want to bring out. And Chase, you said earlier, as
That's a
long
lot of
as
things.
the baby Yoda doesn't like ever come into contact with the real Yoda,
Mhm.
then everything should be fine. So what do you propose happens if that happens? Is it creates like a time paradox like in Doctor Who?
So, like, what was the worst thing that ever happened in Doctor Who? So, like, one of the doctors had his, his sonic screwdriver, and they tapped them, and there was like a small spark. But nothing worse than a small
Well,
spark
when
can
Rose
really
touched
happen.
baby Rose, a bunch of demons came out of portals and attacked them.
I definitely do
true.
not remember that.
I remember that
What?
one in the church, right?
You
They
don't
take
remember
it
the
out in
episode where
church?
she saves her father from dying by pushing him out of the way of the
Well,
car?
Oh,
Yeah.
That was,
vaguely, yeah.
that was due to the fact that Rose was altering time by saving her father.
No, that was after she touched the baby.
That was after I
Mhm.
thought it was because she tried to save her
I
father and
Don't
Nope.
know.
So anyway, my main question, this wasn't even my main question is what happens if the Force ghost of Yoda comes into contact with baby Yoda? Would would bad things
Well,
still
we don't-
happen?
If they were the same person, I guess maybe bad things would happen. But
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
in reference to
I
this
don't
theory.
know. And I guess it all depends on how they want to do.
Because if that's the
wanna do it.
case, then you
'Cause,
can't really.
I mean, in like Back to the Future time travel, he meets his mom, he meets his dad. Like he almost runs into himself. He meets himself, right?
Yeah,
In the
he does.
future, he's his son, and so nothing really happened. So I guess it all
But that
depends
was
on
the
how they want
future.
to.
That wasn't the. He didn't meet himself in the past because remember, in the past, he had to stay very far away from himself.
In the future,
Doc
he
warned
meets
him when
himself,
he
yeah.
went back to 1955,
Mhm.
and you can see there's the two Martys at the Enchantment Under the Sea dance,
Yeah.
and one of them had to like keep hiding behind walls and whatever to stay out of sight of his other
Of
self,
the,
which was
right.
already in the past.
Yes.
I don't know.
So
Yeah.
that was
Yeah. I guess they never met each other until the future.
Yeah.
So I guess my question really depends on whether they're using Back to the Future logic or Doctor Who logic. Either way, I think it's
Or if they're creating their own.
in my mind, I wouldn't think it would matter regardless of what happened. Like it's the way I think of it is this is just one timeline that the Force is guiding, so to speak. So I think whatever happens it already happened kind of in
Hmm.
that kind of timeline.
I'm gonna. Yeah, I'll say nothing that bad would happen in the Star Wars one. Like I don't think there'll be some giant rift or paradox or whatever. But I also don't. I'm not buying the theory that it's going to actually be true. So.
well,
But we'll see.
it does beg the question because we have the world between worlds now. It does beg the question if like Ahsoka went through the portal and met her past self, like what would happen?
Yeah.
Like would that?
Do you think we're even going to find that information out this season?
Don't know. I don't think so. I think it's too early to get rid of the child in the Mandalorian. I think they're gonna keep him around for another season.
I know Ezra
I
wanted
hope
to be
not.
on like
Yeah.
last season.
No, that's mostly Chase. I mean, I
that's
think
what I
so
meant,
too.
Yeah.
I don't hate
think-
the child, but it's definitely he's a plot point in a story arc, and I
Yeah.
feel like that's all he should be. He shouldn't be the entire focus of the show.
Yeah, he's a side character. He shouldn't be the primary unless they wanted to rename the show to The Mando and the Child.
Oh, that could be the title for season 3.
And Chase will
Chase
kill
hates him.
himself.
As long as it gets a name and people stop calling it Baby Yoda, I won't hate it nearly as much.
Yeah,
Or it
I'm
ends up
with you
being
there,
Baby
Chase.
Yoda. And
Baby
then I'm
Yoda.
fine with it. If Joe's
Then you're
theory ends up
wrong.
being
You've been
correct,
wrong this
then
whole time.
I'll take everything back that I've ever said.
I'm
Well,
there with you,
Alright,
Chase.
I want
to
this
have a
theory
name.
to be true now. Someone make it happen.
Come on,
We have
Dave Filoni would know you
Filoni's-
watch us.
Brett, you've been the king
Yeah,
of finding
right.
things today. Can you find us Dave Filoni's phone number?
And the time, baby.
Oh man.
Baby who?
Baby. Jeez.
No. Okay.
3 Mandos and a baby? No, that's too old of a movie for you guys.
1.5 Mandos.
Anyways,
Spitballing here.
Yeah, I think that's all we got. We're starting to
Yeah, we're
go
going
off
crazy
the
now.
rails.
Razor Crest Time Machine. Sorry, last one.
It's bigger on the inside.
Back to the Mando.
It seriously does seem bigger on the inside. There's no way that
I
all
know.
of that stuff fits in that ship.
New theory: Mandalorian is also a Time Lord.
Oh boy,
Ugh.
the Time Lord would be a good Jedi. But all right, well, that's our theory. What did you think? Thanks, Joa, for coming on and sharing it with us. We'll find out here in a couple weeks. I guess we won't. We might not even find out this season, actually, if your theory is correct. So it's going to have to be one of those. We'll have to wait and see. But thanks for sharing with us. Thanks for coming on. And what did you, the audience, think? Let us know in the comments section. Leave us a comment. Tell us what you think of the theory. If you have a theory that you want us to talk about, leave that as well, and we will talk about it. Thanks for watching. And until next time, I guess, this is the way.
Come on, baby, do the magic hand thing.